Hello? Okay. Hey everyone. It's officially 1 o'clock, so we're gonna start. We're okay. We're gonna talk about school sustainability and what you all can do to help at your high school. Maybe. Okay. Okay. First, we're gonna go over some introductions, some commonly asked questions, and then basically the rest of the time is yours to ask the panel whatever questions you have. Okay, so my name is Akanksha Nandaluri. I am a junior I'm dual enrolled at Madison Area Technical College, and I'm a junior this year.
Hi, I'm Noemi, and I'm the Executive Director of In Pursuit of Sunshine. I'm also a freshman at UW-Madison.
Dave Ropa, 7th grade science teacher at Spring Harbor Middle School.
Hi, and I'm Andy Weiland. I'm the business manager for the Oregon School District.
Hi, so I guess I can introduce myself a little bit more. So In Pursuit of Sunshine is the organization that I run, and I've been running it since 2018. Kind of like a quick little timeline here. We created a couple of events in 2018 and 2019. And in 2020, we started organizing community gardens, working on our newsletters, and then in 2021, we started our class curriculum, documentary and radio, and that's kind of what I'll be talking about today is kind of how we created that class and how you can also do that in your own high schools. In 2022, we created our second set of the class, so I guess we started our second year of the class, and this spring we will have around 40 students that we will be teaching kind of throughout the day. And yeah. So this is kind of what we learned in creating the class. So we created the class from the Big Idea Award, which is a grant by MMSD. It was through pandemic funds. However, I do believe that you can still apply for the Big Idea Award. And we kind of have three main points that helped us throughout the process, which is building your network, creating a solid mission and plan, and then persistence and sustainability, which can be very difficult in high schools in general. So I guess like one of the main things, we are an organization, but we're also a network. We kind of pride ourselves on being a network, and I guess we have a few tips for kind of expanding your network and being able to connect with different teachers, different students, and different nonprofits and organizations, as well as kind of growing your own personal social media and being able to create a solid mission. So our mission statement is, it is our responsibility to take care of our community, which is a very broad mission statement, but it allows us to encompass a lot more than just the class curriculum and bring in a lot more people from the community. We also use our class motto, which is a place for regenerating agriculture and education, which is kind of what we strive for within our class. Our class is a one semester. It's during the spring. We work in our community gardens, and we work on food security and regenerating agriculture and education, as you can tell there. The second thing I think that I guess I wanted to just kind of briefly talk about was the fact that our class didn't pass in the beginning, and I don't think it probably will ever pass through MMSD. Our school district does not really see it as kind of, not really a priority, but more of just, it's not something that they're able to put within their system currently. But we still do have the outcomes, and we were still very persistent in being able to bring these educational programs to our school. So we had 7 apprentices, and 5 out of 7 of our apprentices went into a sustainability field, and 4 of them said it was specifically because of this class. We also continued with our independent study, and we were able to pass it down to underclassmen. And we also have like our apprenticeships, internships, independent study, volunteer opportunities, and our clubs. So we're able to kind of be more sustainable within our school. And then I just kind of have like how you can get in touch with us. And yeah, I guess from your questions too, I'll be able to talk a little bit more. Thank you.
All right, you okay if I stand and walk around? As a teacher, it's hard for me just to sit down. So again, I'm Dave Ropa. I teach 7th grade science. And I was asked to come because our school is unique in that we have a greenhouse. And we opened in 2016, but the greenhouse project started probably 7 or 8 years before that. Actually started 20 years before that. But it's in Spring Harbor, for those of you who don't know, is an environmental science middle school. It's a magnet school. It's not a charter school. But it pulls from the entire memorial attendance area. So kids in 5th grade can apply to come to Spring Harbor, and if they get their name pulled out of a hat, they can come if they choose to. So the school has a mission of environmental science. It's supposed to be embedded throughout all aspects of the curriculum. Like any school, that's never the case. However, we did always have some little garden place, a little garden plot, and sometimes like 1 or 2 teachers would bring their kids out. But over time, it kept expanding and growing, and so eventually we had like a summer garden camp for 4 or 5 weeks, and students would sign up to be a part of the summer garden camp. One offhand day, I said to one of my former principals, I said, you know, someday we should have a greenhouse out there. And she kind of laughed and looked at me like, you're an idiot. And, but she didn't tell me no, right? She didn't say, no, we can't do it. Just, she didn't believe it could happen. And so I started researching greenhouses, and I toured, Monsanto and UW's facilities, and they are energy hogs, right? They're constantly having to cool them off in the summertime. They're having to heat them in the wintertime. Big lights, a lot of energy. And I couldn't, in good conscience, stick the district with that kind of bill, even though we wanted a greenhouse. So I looked at trying to build something more sustainably. And so I started with some students. I said, hey kids, what do you think would be a good idea for a greenhouse if we just built it out of all recycled stuff? And we got some really cool ideas. Kids started like drawing things and working in SketchUp. And so we took those student ideas and we met with an architect, and he actually we showed him, these are the sliding glass doors we have, these are the old timbers we have, what could you do with this? And he actually created this heliocentric design as just a sketch. He said, we could do something like this. I said, great. And so we started fundraising, we started fundraising and got an initial grant of like $10,000, enough to pay him for the design, and then keep going from there. And then we had a family friend, like a parent of a student, who said, well, I've got a 3D artist company. He took that little design and turned it into this whole thing where it actually had a video where you could like fly through it and see what it would look like. Again, I have no experience in any of this, right? Other than I just had an interest in doing it. But when you start talking to people about what they do and like these types of networking opportunities, just if one thing, learn who are the experts in those fields. If you have some interest, who knows more than you, and start communicating with them, starting writing down their names and getting their information, because those experts allowed us to turn that vision into some sort of reality. We found out that the MATC students, they do all sorts of projects. The building students, so they built all the timbers for our construction project. Families and friends started donating old materials that were getting torn out of their homes. We just had this collection of stuff. So it became what we call project-based learning. The students in my classes had to figure out, how many bricks do we need to lay for the foundation? How much concrete do we need to fill out those bricks and those concrete forms? How much material do we need for the roof of the building? Eventually, the students were actually involved with the construction. So we used, again, since it's a sustainable building, we used light straw clay. So there's just 250 straw bales were broken apart, coated in clay, and packed into those walls. And all day long, instead of going to class, they came out there and just stamped inside those walls until by the end, they were all sitting on the top of the building, having packed all those walls. These are middle school kids. And most people don't believe that middle school, let's think back, and I don't want to traumatize you, but if you think back to your middle school days, you probably don't think, wow, that was at my best, right? And yet, these kids, that energy is phenomenal. And so there are people in your community who have that type of energy and type of passion for doing things. Find them. And so that was the first year. The next year, we protected the building, and we decided then we had to plaster the interior walls. So showing kids how to mix plaster and put it on the walls. Students who don't necessarily thrive in the classroom, probably like most of you thrive in the classroom, even if it's the worst day. There are, students that don't do well in the class, and yet when they come out to these types of hands-on projects, they are totally captivated and motivated because It's community building. It's something different. It's unique. They will remember it for a long time. So give your fellow classmates or the people in your community memories that they can take with them. And involve the community, right? These are the kids. They were bringing their parents to help out. And then you build community around something that people remember for a long time. What was nice about this project is once we had the building constructed, it started to change the way that the students and the teachers saw their own community, because they saw it was something different. People had donated money and time and labor, literally blood, sweat, and tears, into the building, and it changed what we did. So we could expand our programs, expand some of the cooking and food preparation. Our gardens are now truly community gardens in that whatever we grow, we just give away. We put it on a produce stand in the morning, it's gone by the afternoon, and we're just putting bags of foods in kids' hands to take home with them, because we're trying to make healthy foods accessible. And this is a philosophy I really believe. Every student should be able to have produce grown really locally, like in the back of the school grounds. Madison School District does not allow for this yet. It's one thing we're going to keep working on. How do you actually get the foods that we grow at our schools into the bellies of our students? And then from there, again, more interest. We got some chickens from the Madison Children's Museum. They raise the little chicks, and when they grow up, they have to get rid of them. So we've been taking them into the school. And it's amazing when kids are completely dysregulated in school in the classroom. I take them out into the gardens, they hold a chicken, they're totally fine. So it's a way to kind of change how we do things at school and allow for kids to be outside and look at learning in a different way. This is how these outdoor spaces have impacted our school. It's changed our food and nutrition on some level. We do allow for kids, we can kind of do some cooking in the class, but we'd like to expand that much more. We don't have an on-site school kitchen or anything. We have a whole composting program. We compost all our school lunch scraps, so we make our own soil. Kids get outside a lot more. It's healthier because they're running around carrying compost buckets, digging in the dirt, flipping things over. A lot more STEM activities because kids are planning the construction and design of various objects in our school grounds. And like I said, project-based learning, it's an applicable experience. Some of the things we are forcing you to learn in maybe AP classes, you think, when am I ever going to need this? But project-based learning, you learn in a different way, where you actually do what professionals do in the real world. And obviously the team building and the fun of learning has been the most pivotal aspect of all this, is that we see kids who have a memorable experience. They can come back to the greenhouse, they can point to the exact point in the wall where they were packing straw, because they still have that kinesthetic memory. So.
Thank you. Again, my name is Andy Weiland. I'm the business manager of the Oregon School District, and I'm going to talk a little bit about a large project. This is what's called a net zero building, which basically means that it creates as much energy as it needs over a year period of time. So not every single day, especially in the winter, does it make as much power as it needs. But during the summer, spring, and fall, in a lot of cases it does, at least during the time that the sun's shining. So sustainability comes in a lot of different forms, and you guys have a wide area to kind of explore. This particular thing talks about climate change. It's really trying to become more carbon neutral, and it's a huge step in that direction. What's interesting about climate change and carbon neutrality is there's actually some goals out there for our society. The president was actually at a conference yesterday, I think, or the day before, where global leaders are actually trying to talk about this. And I don't think it gets enough news, but basically what we need to do is reduce the amount of carbon we're putting into the atmosphere by 40% in the next 7 years. Let that sink in a little bit. We put a lot of carbon into the atmosphere. We got to reduce by 40%, and 40 to 50% actually in the next 7 years by 2030. So this building is designed to kind of show how that can happen. Now, it has a huge advantage, and that huge advantage is that we got to design it from the beginning. And there's huge advantages anytime you get to start and build the systems right from the beginning, because trying to retrofit systems is really, really difficult. So you have kind of some struggles when you start talking about that with buildings that you already exist in. But there are some things that you can do. LED replacements and that type of thing to make energy more efficient. But there's actually some technologies that really need to be developed for some of our buildings that we live in today that have to almost be created yet for us to be able to make this carbon neutrality thing a possibility. And that's why we're trying to create a lot of energy and a lot of engineers and problem solvers in our communities, because there's some huge things that we need to figure out. What's kind of cool, though, is from a residential basis, there are technologies that exist today that we can start changing the way our homes are heated and cooled. Actually, the cooling is there already, but the heating is basically using heat pumps and those types of things. And there's some really good things that are happening from a federal level. You might have heard about the Inflation Protection Act. It's actually a huge climate change bill that's going to start funding on January 1st of 2023. Your parents or yourselves some ways to start changing the way we heat our homes. And I talk about that more than anything because in Wisconsin, the way we heat our homes is to burn natural gas, and that's putting carbon into the atmosphere. Okay? So I'm going to talk a little bit about Forest Edge and talk a little bit about the technologies that we use. For the most part, you see the main technology that we use right now, it's 1,704 solar panels. So even on a cloudy day like today, we make energy, okay? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our story on how this happened. I just defined the net zero component. That's our cafeteria, and that's outside. We try to do natural grasses and those types of things so we don't have to mow. So we have a lot of prairie mixes and that type of thing around our playground, around our playgrounds, our parking lots, and kind of even the front of the school. All right, the OSD story is we had some board members. I work for the Board of Education who were very worried about climate change and did some research. And when they came back, they said we need a policy that directs our administration to do two main things. And that's basically to develop building and operational practices and procedures that are sustainable, and then to teach our students about those concepts. So I'm kind of involved in that one, the building and operational procedures as the business manager. My job oversees transportation, buildings and grounds, food service, those types of things. So that's my area. But I do work with our teachers and those types of things to try to also incorporate some of the things that we do operationally into the learning for our students. The first thing, what's interesting when Dave was talking is our teachers really ignited the fire. Our teachers and our students at our middle school. They wanted to build a greenhouse. Now, I wished our path would have maybe taken your path. We ended up putting a greenhouse onto the building. The building happens to be geothermal. I'll talk about that in a second. The portion of the building that we put the greenhouse, but unfortunately, you run into engineering challenges, and the greenhouse had to be sprinkled. And because it had to be sprinkled, you can't let the water freeze in the winter, so we had to put a natural gas burner in it to basically keep it at a certain temperature so that the pipes didn't burst. But as we were going through the idea of building a greenhouse, actually in the early 2010s, we were talking about trying to figure out ways to move forward. And this device, I would encourage you, and actually Stevens Point, the KEEP program, is working with high schools and school districts on this, to develop this device. This device kind of was the entry point to what we needed to do, to what we needed to learn about with our journey. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what it does in a minute. It's pretty cheap. It probably costs another $400 to install it, $500 to install it, but it basically monitors the amount of energy your building uses real time. And so that kind of opens your mind to kind of how things work. And if you have a solar system, it shares that information on a same graph. I'll show that in just a moment. So as we were working on this journey, the next thing after we put that device in there, and I'll show you what that means, and it does in a minute, is we were like, how do we make solar energy real to our kids? Okay? And so we bought a solar panel, just one solar panel. We didn't connect it to the grid or anything, or to even the building, but we connected it to a battery because we were trying to make it work for kids so that they understood how this technology could help them. Now, what do you think we did with that battery? What's the most important device on your person right now? Cell phone. We let the kids charge their batteries. So we took the battery, charged it with the solar panel, and then we let the kids charge their cell phones with the device. So we have that in 2 different places at our middle school. And you see one of them right there. The next thing we did was we added a 63 kWp kilowatts, 63 kilowatt panel system to our middle school. So we did this first. We kind of built some momentum for it, and then we put all these solar panels on the school next. And then we incorporated that with the e-gauge device. Well, I'm gonna step back a second. So we put that on. That was in our referendum in 2014. But we also put solar on 2 other buildings. We put it at an elementary school. And you'll see that we're kind of trying some different things. So we're trying to learn. On this building, this is called a standing seam metal roof. On this building, it's called a rubber roof with bricks that are holding it down for wind load and that type of thing. And then we even tried cantilevering it off the building. So we're trying different technologies. We're learning. This is our high school, Oregon High School. And these, we actually built supports off the structure of the building and put it up high. So again, we're trying different things. And we're learning back in the early 2014, 15, 16, 17. So when 2018 came, we were able to build Forest Edge with the 1,700 panels. We were comfortable with the way we were doing it. We were learning along the way. The other thing we learned is about geothermal. We hadn't had a geothermal system. We put geothermal in our middle school in an addition. Geothermal is really hard for me to show you guys. It's really boring. It's pipes that go into the ground. Our pipes go into the ground 406 feet. And they bring water. They let the earth basically warm or cool the water that we put into the ground, and basically use that water through heat pumps. I mentioned heat pumps for residences a little while ago. Basically, it uses that heat or that cooling to basically warm or cool the building in a very, very efficient way. So we use that at the middle school, and then we put an addition onto our high school that was also geothermal. So we felt comfortable. We were learning again. We were becoming comfortable with the technologies before we married those 2 technologies to Forest Edge to create this super efficient building. We go back to this device. This is what the device provides you. Free. This is available on our website. I'll tell you where to get to it if you want, for every single one of our buildings at the Oregon School District. What it shows is the amount of energy the building's using. This is Forest Edge Elementary. It's the end of October. So October 29th, 30th, and 31st. Those are the 3 days. This is the amount, This is the amount of energy that the building's using. Here, this red, early mornings, and then boom, the sun comes up. Is that a cloudy day or not a cloudy day? No clouds that day at all. Perfect parabola, right? The amount of sun came up. As it got to its peak, we peaked out at almost 400 kilowatts. The system's capable of 500, and we hit 500 in the summer, and then it comes back down. And then as the sun goes down, comes up, we're trying to warm the building up a little bit in the morning on Sunday, the October 30th, and boom, this is a cloudy day. You can see what's happening, how much energy we're creating. It jumps around a little bit. Now, why is that important? So the MG&E guys, if they're in here, understand that this is important to them. They have to manage this energy load, and it's going up and down. When it's green, I'm selling energy to the power company. I'm helping power, the school district is helping power the houses around it. So that's how we get to net zero, is during some days, we're pushing power out to the grid so that at nights or on cloudy days, when we need energy, the grid's giving us energy back. But this is important because somebody needs to figure out how to manage that energy as it goes into the grid. And then the next day was less cloudy. But it was Monday. School was back in session that day. we had to warm the building up and start ventilating it. So you can see the amount of energy we were using was higher because we had a load on the building. We still made more energy than we needed for a good part of the day. So this device kind of shows us what our buildings are doing. And I firmly believe if you want to achieve a goal, you have to measure. So it gives you a real-life measurement of what's going on. And I can look at this at any point in time. It gives me an exact need, and it shows me what's going on for the last day. All right, quickly, because I've probably burned quite a bit of my time already. Net zero strategies. 1,704 solar panels, 99 geothermal wells, all underneath our playground area on the west side of the school. First net zero school in the Wisconsin. For a while, until this summer, we were the largest educational facility in North America that was verified net zero. Myrtle Beach had 4 buildings that they brought online in the summer. Otherwise, we were good. We're still the furthest north building. We're 127,000 square feet, so we could fit 600 kids into our building. So we're a decent-sized building for far north as we are in our climate. Our goals when we built the building real quick, deal with enrollment change. So again, as you're building new buildings, this is the time to do these things. Create exceptional learning spaces with lots of natural light and safety, security, as well as the sustainability elements. Real important was site selection. If you're trying to do these types of things, you have to think about how we're going to site the building on the site. We have to figure out if it's actually with geothermal will work. Some places it will, some places it won't. You have to do some tests to figure that out. But what's cool about this is the engineering right from the get-go is the front of the building on the south side had to be lower than the north side because we didn't want to create a shadow on the solar panels. So you have to think about those things. This is our boilers. These are our 5 pumps. They're redundant, so if one would break or go out or something like that, the other ones can keep up. There's just pumps that basically pump water through our geothermal system. And it doesn't always have to go into the ground. Sometimes we can take energy or warmth or cooling from one side of the building to the other side of the building so we don't have to push that water all the way down that 406 feet. How do we make that so that everybody understands what 406 feet is? Well, we have graphics throughout the building. So this is the Capitol. Everybody's pretty familiar with what that looks like and how big that is. These are the geothermal wells. So the Capitol is 284 feet tall. 400 feet is that much taller, longer. There's an aerial of all those 406 solar panels. You walk up to the school or drive up to the school, you can't see any of them. They're kind of hidden, which is actually kind of sad to me because I wish people understood the technology that's there. But if you go up on the second floor, and the second floor is this area, you can see everything in front of you, so you can kind of see them then. We have 3 different courtyards. So lots of natural light going into hallways, classrooms, that type of thing. Very sophisticated system. We won't talk about all the things on here. We're monitoring all kinds of different things, from humidity, temperature coming in, temperature going out, that type of thing. This is called a DOAS unit, where we bring in outside air, but the air that we push out, we take all the energy and humidity out of it and transfer it to the air coming in. These are all the different electrical panels in the building, and we monitor how much energy each one of them is using, so if something's out of line, we can figure out where it's out of the line. We actually have a battery system. So if we're producing excess energy, sometimes we're charging our battery so that we can basically use that instead of bringing energy into the school. That's a newer system that's just starting to develop, and they're still trying to figure out some of those things. But it's kind of cool because they're learning with us. Electrochromatic glass. So this is transition lenses for your building. As the sun's coming at you, that will heat up your building, and you'll have to have more cooling energy to cool the building down. If you tint the glass, the energy doesn't get into the building, so it keeps the heat out. Network lighting system. Each light in this building, if we're in the building, has a connection to it, so we know what each light's doing, and it measures how much daylighting is below it. and then adjust based on the right amount of light that it should have. I'll just say this real quick. Key component to getting net neutral, and from a carbon perspective, is we got to stop burning things. So it's called electrification. We're trying to electrify transportation. That's what electric cars are. We're trying to electrify buildings now. So this building actually has no natural gas coming to it. Everything that runs in this building, from the stoves, the heat, the ovens, the lawnmower, is all battery-driven or electric-driven. Real quick here, this just shows you what months where the yellow is how much energy that we're using from the grid. The blue shows how much energy we're pushing out. I think that's right, or did I miss that? I messed that up. Sorry, it's the reverse. Yellow is energy that we're pushing out. Nope, I'm right. I was right in the first place. Sorry. January is the energy that we're bringing in from the grid. Blue is how much energy we're pushing out. So January, we're bringing a lot of energy from the grid because the days are really short, so the solar panels don't give us much. But they still provide some, depending on the day. But from basically April through October, we're pushing energy out to the grid, so that's how we get to net neutral. But regardless, we're not burning anything. And what's another exciting thing happening is MG&E, Alliant Energy, all these utilities have kind of some goals where they're trying to stop burning. So sometimes people will talk about with cars like, well, yeah, that's great that you're charging your car, but it's a coal generator that's creating the electricity for your car, but it won't be forever. So that's the cool component to it, is as the grid gets greener, anything that uses electricity gets greener too. So I'm the money guy. That's my main job. I'm kind of the CFO for the school district. So let's talk about if we're saving money. And then I'm pretty much done. My cost on 2 buildings that are real close in size to Forest Edge is about $1.15 a square foot for the entire year, this last year. I'm less than half of that for Forest Edge. So it's not free, even though I produce more energy than I use. And we can get into that, but that's really boring, and I sometimes do that. And I'm not going to do that to you guys. So, but it's still less than half the cost. And Oregon Middle School actually has geothermal in it, so it's kind of cheating to share it, to compare those technologies a little bit, or those buildings. I am way over time, I'm sure. But if you guys have questions, I think we're all ready for you.
Okay, so before we get to your questions, we just wanted to go over some common ones. So I think one of the main ones is, how do I start getting change in my school? How do I start getting help with a project?
Sure, I'll start. That is a large question. I would say for me, so starting the class, I would say finding people that can support you on multiple different levels. So whether that's students that can support you and are excited and passionate to be there, whether that's getting another teacher or a staff member, I think that's kind of where, I don't know, for me, change starts. But
Yeah, I was talking to someone earlier at lunch, and I was looking across the cafeteria area out there and looking at this cross-section of people. And it reminded me, so just a few nights ago, I was giving a tour at Spring Harbor to a bunch of teachers that are trying to do unique things at their schools. And so the analogy was not lost on me that I'm looking at all these young people thinking, how do I do something really cool in my world? And those teachers, some of them are like the only one at their school, right, who's going to try to do something. And maybe you're the only one at your school or in your community that's trying to make change, or maybe you have a small group of people. But it's those people who are they're just not ready to settle for what everyone else is doing, right? They want to make some sort of change. And latching onto those people, and don't be discouraged by the people who tell you no. Because those people they're gonna be constant. The people like, no, we've never done it that way. No, you can't do it that way. Why do you want to do that? Just ignore those people. Don't let them get you down. Just find those what I call the crazy teachers, right? Like the ones that are just like thinking differently about the way things should be done. Latch onto those people. And if you're not one of them, encourage the ones you find. That's what I would say.
I think the key to being successful is building strong relationships with people. Spend the time and talk about the why. You might get a no, but keep coming back to the why. Always do that and find passion. Find your passion. People, when I talk, people all say, wow, you got a lot of passion for this. I do, and it's something that's important to me. If you can find something that's your why, right? Like, from my point of view, I want to make a difference. That drives me. Like, how can I make a difference? So I think everybody, especially young folks, you have that drive. You just got to kind of unleash it and find people that share that same drive, like everybody here said, and stick with it. Stick with it and build those relationships with administrators, with teachers, with parents. I was at a presentation this summer called the Midwest Renewable Energy Conference in Plover, and I couldn't get away from this lady. She was a parent from at La Crosse, and her kids, I think, were elementary age, and I think she actually had a baby too. And she stuck with me for like 20 minutes talking about all the different things that she's trying to do at La Crosse and picking my brain about different ideas. Those are the people that will move heaven and earth. And talk about getting real-world job-type responsibilities. If you can be successful with something like this, it will open doors that you will not believe for you. The other cool thing about people in sustainability is they all want to help you. If any of you guys call any of us, I might not be able to call you right at that moment, but I'll call you, and we'll help you. And you'll get some real-world stuff there that can help you move forward.
All right. So I think our next big question is, who is the student's best ally in both just a personal kind of way and in a financial kind of way? Because, okay.
Hello. So I got to help give part of an answer for this one. My name is Heather Phelps. I'm with the K-12 Energy Education Program, known as KEEP. We're part of the Wisconsin Center for Environmental Education out of UW-Stevens Point. And so question of who can help the student monetarily? We can. We have a program called the Green Team Mini Grant Fund. So if you have a green team or environmental club or group of committed students at your school who want to do a project and think, but that needs money and we don't have anybody who can give us money, that's what we're here for. So we have mini grants, and then we can also help with some of the other parts of this as well, giving the support. And how do you do an energy audit to figure out where you are at the beginning of this, and how can you plan this project out? So we can help with a number of those different steps. So if you want a brochure or business card or whatever, I can do that, because we want to see these projects succeed as much as you do, and we would like to help make that happen.
Thank you, Heather.
As I just said, anybody that's into this, the county in Dane County is awesome. Kathy, who's here, there's actually an office in Dane County, and she knows all of us because that's how we're here. But again, networking and building relationships with people, if you have an idea that you feel really could happen, I got to believe there's a way to make it work. You just got to find the right person to help you.
So for our greenhouse project, we probably had 225 individual donors, some of them as big as $50,000, some of them down to $5. Like somebody was walking by and said, I like this idea, here's money. They just hand me like $5. Your ideas, whatever your idea is, Dane County is an amazing support. Not Dane County, the entity, but rather just the people of this county are so passionate about helping protect our planet, protect our community. So there's grant money out there, there's individual donors, there's so many networking ways to get the resources. That probably won't be your problem. Money won't be your problem. The problem will be convincing the people who are like kind of the gatekeepers. And so having the money in your pocket definitely helps, but that's getting on to the next question. So should I move on to the next question, or do you want, okay. So obstacles are definitely going to come up with your projects. Money probably won't be the obstacle. The obstacle will be who's in charge, what do they believe, and why, and then how can I convince them that my idea is the one that's going to be bettering the situation. And that's where you cannot do this alone. There's no way that one person can go into an organizational structure and say, hey, I've got this great idea, let's go with it. That's where building a community, building lots of more powerful people on your team is really important. Even if you're going to write a grant, before you fill out all the grant applications and send it in, you want to make sure that you know who's on the grant deciding committee or who funds the grant committee, and do you know their names? Do they know you? Because before they see the grant, you want somebody on the grant team saying, hey, this person just gave me this grant, I'd like to fund it, rather than they get it cold and they've never heard of you. So most of the work before you get money is done well in advance. So back in my day, we had a Rolodex. I don't know, but stalk people, right, online. Figure out who's in charge, who knows what, and learn those people's names so you can be more successful when the time comes. Don't really stalk people, right? Okay.
For our project, I would say the best people that supported us were teachers who were already there. They were already built into the school, and they were able to sustain the projects. I think also, if you look at our team, we only really had maybe 2 people on our team that were there consistently. But when you look at like our network overall, there were lots of other people who were able to support us in whatever we needed that day. So whether that's, we can call this person to ask them for, I don't know, help with recommendations for books. You can contact. So I feel like, I guess getting past obstacles, I can also add that in, but also just having people that you are not afraid to contact. I think just reaching out to people, a lot of people are going to want to help you. And I think that if you have a specific mission, not necessarily a specific plan, like for our class, we had the plan to create a credit and a class. But having the mission and being able to see kind of past that plan and say, oh, well, we are going to do educational programs. That's our mission and that's our goal. And being able to create a network and bringing people in and making them feel like they're useful, because they are, is really important. And the way that we kind of got past the obstacles of not having our class passed.
Thank you all for those answers. Those were really helpful. We are running a little bit short on time, so we wanted to suggest some project ideas for you all, including some large projects and some smaller projects, just in case you're not ready to implement those really big projects. Small changes are still changes, so we just wanted to encourage that as well. All right, okay. So now we're just going to open up the floor to your questions. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand and I'll bring over the microphone to you, or you can text them to that number. And no, I'm not scrolling through my Instagram. Okay, I'll start here.
Thank you so much. So I just I'm wondering if there are any organizations that you guys or like projects that you guys are aware of that you think need some help right now. I'm a senior, so I'm not, and I'm probably going to go out of state, so I don't have a ton of time to start something of my own. But I'm wondering if there's anything that you guys know about that you think could use some extra hands while I'm still here.
Of course, I'm going to promote our organization. We're at In Pursuit of Sunshine. You can contact, I'm going to be here, so I guess you can contact me. I definitely need help. So I think we're at Madison West High School, but we're trying to expand throughout all of MMSD. And so, yeah, I'm so excited to have new people on our team, always.
We get a lot of volunteers just through United Way's volunteertime.org. So if you've got time that you'd like to donate, just log onto their website and you'll see there's probably 200 different options for you. Whatever you're feeling that morning, you could wake up and go, oh, I'm feeling very child-centered today, and you're going to go and volunteer at a school or something. So there's infinite number of opportunities to volunteer in the area.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say is go back to your high school and find the freshmen and sophomores and juniors and light a fire.
I also just wanted to take the opportunity to plug Dane County Youth Environmental Committee real quick. So you can talk to that guy back there. His name is Bob Pisslinger, and yeah. Does anyone else have questions?
Hi. What would be the best place to start if you want to start a project locally? Maybe not a huge project, but just for your school. What would be the best place to start? Would you talk to the administration? Would you talk to someone, school board? I'm not sure. Just where would you start? Not really, but just in that realm of. How do you start it?
I mean, ultimately, now you're more the administrative side of things, but from a school-wide side of things, it really depends, right? If it's curricular, you're going to talk to maybe the instructional coach. If it's physical, some sort of structure in the school, you're going to talk to the principal, the custodian, all the people who manage the building grounds. If it's more extracurricular, you're talking to people who run clubs and those types of things after school. So it really depends on the type of organization. But again, that requires a little bit of research. Right? Who are those people? Who are those decision makers in your school? Anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say figure out what's most important to you. What area is most important to you? Is water quality important to you? Is energy important to you? What are those things? And then do a little research like why. What are the things that, why do I want to make this better? So that you have that answer. Always know your why, because you can convince people with that.
And who's doing it already, right? There might already be groups at your school or whatever doing those things, and learn from them.
Are there any more questions?
Okay, so I have kind of two questions. So my first question is, we're having a lot of problems trying to get some of the underclassmen in our to join our Green Club, and so because most of us are seniors this year, and so I was wondering if you guys have any advice for how to kind of encourage people to join the movement or help us in any way. And then my other question is around if we have problems at our school that we notice are happening, but every solution that we come up with is turned down for some reason, it just isn't able to happen. Is there any resources that you guys have for people who might know different solutions to the problems that we have that we can't figure out a solution to?
I can start off by talking about kind of getting underclassmen involved. I think that one of the major, that's a major difficulty, I think, in our school too. But I think being able to find at least a couple students, it doesn't have to be a lot of students, and being able to be a part of any like school group and having things over the loudspeaker, being able to kind of just do anything that kind of gets out your message, as well as just contacting individuals. I think people are more receptive to being contacted individually, that I think that that's kind of the most important.
Yeah, feed them, make it fun, right? Like, and people want to build community. They want to feel like they're seen and heard, particularly younger classmen. Reaching out to them personally, they're going to want to be involved, they're going to be flattered, but they're going to be hungry, and they're going to want to have fun. In terms of institutional structures that make it really difficult, what are the ally groups that you can rely on? Is there a student government group that can be convinced to be advocating on your behalf? Are there the teachers and other administrators? Are there, let's face it, parents are loud people, particularly when they feel like their kids' needs aren't being met. So how do you build allies that help make this issue on somebody else's radar? Because people are overwhelmed with issues. And so you just got to like bump yours up a little bit higher on the checklist of things to do.
Dave said the thing that I think most important, and I have children that are older than you guys, so I'm a little disconnected to this a little bit, but from my point of view, and I'm a Rotarian, and we're having a hard time getting people be Rotarians right now. There just seems to be, the pandemic has kind of made us isolated. But I believe, and you guys, you gotta answer this more than I can, that there's a desire to belong to something, and we gotta ignite that. But it's gotta be fun. It's gotta be fun somehow. Pizza party, movie nights, whatever, and then you put a little bit of something in there too that that's kind of the organization's mission, what you're trying to accomplish. The other thing that I thought of was, how do you make this more important? Well, do a little research. Sometimes, like our board put stuff in their board policy that says to do things, right? And sometimes that just sits on a shelf or on the internet and nobody reads it. Well, if you can go find something that says, hey, we should really do this, we should be more sustainable, and then you can go to the board or the principal or the teachers and say, hey, wait a minute, you guys said this is important, it's in your policy, you should be doing these things, I'm trying to help. And then they're kind of caught, right? Like, oh, wow. So do a little homework on that too.
If I can add something really quick, I used to be the president of Green Club at Memorial, and I'm currently the co-president of Green Club at MATC. And something that it takes a really long time to get that initial push, and you'll feel so annoying. But like the more effort that you put into this, it's going to spread way more. And something that we found super helpful is getting more volunteering opportunities out to people. I feel like freshmen will just take the chance to jump at whatever chance they get to like get a leader position. So if you want to like offer them something like that, get them engaged with their school community, with the community outside of school. Yeah, just a lot of volunteer and action-based programs instead of just like sitting and listening to a Green Club presentation, and you can't go wrong with food. Okay, we're actually over time, but if you have any questions, you can like write them down and hand them to me, or like you can just text them to my number. Yeah. You'll receive an answer from them in a couple of days, but please write your first and last name down and school if you can, so I know how to contact you. And yeah, thank you so much for coming, and the next breakout will start at 2 p.m. So there's 3 other ones. There's the Where Are You Headed, the careers one, and there's the legislation one, and there's climate justice. So yeah, thank you so much for coming.